Susan Sontag's essay Against Interpretation presents a critique of the dominance of interpretation in the appreciation of art. She opens her essay by tracing the historical roots of artistic interpretation to the mimetic theory of the Greeks, where art was viewed as an imitation of reality. This theory, especially in Plato's philosophy, positioned art as inherently inferior because it was merely an imitation of an imitation. Aristotle, though more sympathetic, still considered art's value primarily in its utility for catharsis, a therapeutic means to cleanse emotions. Sontag argues that Western thought has remained tethered to this mimetic framework, which demands that art justify itself through content. Over time, this led to the entrenched separation of form and content, with content being deemed the essence of a work and form relegated to a secondary status. This division encourages the practice of interpretation, where critics dig beneath the surface to extract hidden meanings, often distorting the original experience of the artwork. She critiques this obsession with interpretation as a kind of intellectual aggression against art. Interpretation transforms art into a coded message that needs decoding, stripping it of its immediate sensory impact. In modern culture, this has led to a stifling environment where the vitality of art is lost under layers of overanalysis. Sontag suggests that this process turns art into something manageable and tame, undermining its potential to provoke and disturb. Sontag differentiates between older forms of interpretation, which were often pious attempts to reconcile ancient texts with contemporary morals, and modern interpretation, which she views as more invasive and destructive. She highlights the influence of Marxist and Freud in hermeneutics, which treat texts as puzzles to be solved, revealing hidden ideological or psychological content. These approaches, while insightful in some respects, often reduce art to a mere symptom of broader social or personal forces. Sontag points out that this interpretive impulse is particularly rampant in literature, where critics habitually reduce complex works to allegories or social commentaries. She uses Kafka as a prime example, noting how critics have read his works as social and psychoanalytic or religious allegories, often missing the raw, unsettling experience his writing evokes. This pattern extends to other modernists like Samuel Beckett, whose minimalistic dramas are frequently overburdened with symbolic readings that detract from their stark emotional power. She acknowledges that some artists, anticipating critical overreach, embed interpretations within their work, either ironically or defensively. This can be seen in filmmakers like Jean Cocteau and even Tennessee Williams, whose plays have been subjected to reductive readings that emphasize social or moral messages over their aesthetic complexity. Sontag's central idea is a call to shift focus from content to form, to appreciate art in its sensuous immediacy rather than as a vehicle for meaning. She champions a mode of criticism that foregrounds the formal qualities of a work, its structure, composition, and surface details, over attempts to unearth hidden messages. This approach values the direct, unmediated experience of art, fostering a deeper, more authentic engagement. She argues that modern art, in many instances, has already begun to resist interpretation. Abstract painting, pop art, and certain stands of modern poetry and cinema seek to deflect interpretive readings by either eschewing conventional content or embracing forms so blatant that they resist deeper decoding. Films, in particular, she notes, often succeed in bypassing the interpreter's scalpel due to their visual immediacy and formal complexity. Sontag points out that the newness of cinema as an art form has allowed it to evade the heavy hand of interpretation longer than older forms like literature. The technical aspects of filmmaking, camera movements, editing, framing offer critics tangible elements to discuss without resorting to reductive content analysis. She cites filmmakers like Godard, Francois Truffaut, and Michelangelo Antonioni as exemplars of this approach, creating works that emphasize visual style and structural experimentation over explicit messages. Sontag is not advocating for a total rejection of criticism. She calls for a criticism that enhances our sensory experience of art rather than diminishes it. She suggests that critics should focus on describing the formal qualities of a work and how it functions as an aesthetic object. This type of criticism would celebrate the surface of art, encouraging viewers to engage directly with its sensuous qualities. Sontag proposes a shift from hermeneutics to an erotics of art. This is not merely a call for superficial appreciation, but an invitation to experience art viscerally and emotionally, allowing its immediate impact to take precedence over intellectual analysis. She emphasizes the need to recover our senses, dulled by the overproduction of art and the constant demand for interpretation. By doing so, we can restore a more authentic, intimate relationship with art. Sontag's essay remains a foundational critique of modern critical practices, challenging the assumption that interpretation is the highest form of engagement with art. She invites readers to reconsider their approach to art, urging them to embrace its mystery, beauty, and immediate presence without compulsion to dissect and decode. Her vision champions a more holistic, sensory rich appreciation of art, one that values experience over explanation.